Hey, and good Friday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel here with the weather report. How you guys doing today? Hope you're having a great day. Are you ready for the weekend? I think I am. I'm ready to get started here for today. And got to deal with the heat, though. Boy, where I'm at in the southeast United States, we're really looking at a very bad heat wave that's going to kind of develop here, especially across Georgia, the Carolinas going into early next week. So, hey, just a reminder, if you are coming into this broadcast after the fact, please go and get a subscribe if you can. And if you ever have a weather-related question, if after this presentation or something, you can always post it down below. More than happy to answer your question. Give me a thumbs up. It does help with that little thing called the YouTube algorithm, which is very much a dictatorship. You gotta you gotta beat that beast every time you can. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this update here. Get you ready for the weekend here. Again, this is our no-nonsense weather here. We don't hype you. We don't scare you to death. Our motto here is keep you prepared and not scared. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into this. Again, our highs and lows yesterday were out west, as they typically are this time of year. We had Tulsa, Arizona hit 110, and we had Seek, Utah was the cold spot at 28. So there's your kind of your parameters out there. We're watching this, we're seeing the heat kind of getting beat back here a little bit. We got a cold front here in the middle of the country, a little bit cooler weather up here toward the high plains. Don't get used to it, folks. You guys up there in the Dakotas and Minnesota, it's going to warm right back up again here. The big news story, I guess, we're going to watch is the fact that we're going to have a little bit of a pattern change coming in as we head toward the first of going into the 1st of August. We're going to see a bit of a change coming our way. So when that comes in, and thank you, Diane, I appreciate that. When that comes in, we're going to see a little bit of a change, the Northeast especially, and maybe in the Southeast. But boy, we're going to have to deal with a lot of heat out there. So we got this system here in the middle of the country. I'm going to go to the weather service map here so you can kind of see this here. And you can kind of see that frontal system right here. It's definitely cooling the temperatures off here in the high plains. This is going to be moving into the Northeast. So we're going to see things begin to improve there, given a little bit of time here. So let me go to my interactive mode here. I'm going to let that reload here. That's that weather chat program, or this weather tap is the software I use here for this. It's kind of tapping out on me. Sometimes if you zoom in on it, it'll reload here a little bit. So I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. There we go. And I'll kind of reload there. There we go. So yeah, we can see that some heavy rains. And boy, they've been getting a lot of heavy rain there across portions of Kansas and heading over toward Missouri. There's been some flooding problems there. That boundary's just been kind of stuck there. So that's still going to be a problem for today. We'll start to see things begin to dry out there a little bit here in the days ahead. That'll be a problem. We're going to have the heat here along the East Coast as well. The East Coast here, up these cities in here are going to get hot before that frontal system moves on in here for today. Now, we also have this little tropical little feature down here, a little wave down here. It's going to be moving into Texas. It's going to move on up, and it's not going to be an issue there. It's got the limited development there. We'll show you that when I get to the tropical section here in a second. But that's just kind of the overview right now and of the overall what's going on across the country. We'll go in a little bit closer here. We'll show you some of the rain there around the Kansas City area here for this morning. Not looking too bad right now, but a little bit better than what it was yesterday. So, but still dealing with rains. I've seen a lot of heavy rain over the last few days, again, in this target zone, and still kind of looking at a moderate risk of flooding into this part of the country as well here for today, as they're dealing with that heavy rainfall. Thus, the flash flood watches that are still up into that area there. You see the green kind of highlighted across Missouri and Kansas, and you get to see the flooding issues all up in there. The heat is at least beat back up here from up across northern Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan. We're kind of beating it down here a little bit. This heat's going to be shifting into the southeast. We're going to have a nice little dome of high pressure kind of filming across the southeast there. This here is a excessive heat watch there for the Carolinas, for example, in anticipation of this pending heat wave that's going to be moving in across the Carolinas and the southeast. They had a little bit of a reprieve with a backdoor cold front earlier in the week, but that's going to kind of give way to this extreme heat that's going to be building in here going into early next week. But then we're going to see the pattern change, which is going to be bringing in some cool air into the northeast. It'll work down the eastern portion of the United States. We'll beat that heat back, but I think the heat's just going to shift out to the west a little bit here overall. So we'll get a brief cool down. I'm not sure if I buy what the Climate Prediction Center is putting out as far as the length of the cool down just yet. At least not based off what I'm seeing on some of the European model data that came in overnight. Well, we'll talk about that here more in a second, as always. And and we'll go ahead and get into all that. So let's go ahead and look at, we'll look at the big picture here. Let's go check this out as we check out the day one outlook here. Again, we got that frontal boundary that's going to come into with extreme heat here coming in across the areas of New England. So you got slight risk there. You got a slight risk up here across North Dakota. A little bit of marginal coming down toward the foothills, and then you got that boundary. Again, we're going to have that big ridge building across the southeast. That front's not going to make its way in. Not this one, but toward the end of next week, that'll be a different story. So that's your day one outlook here for your Friday. Let's go look at Saturday. This is Saturday, so we got a couple of target zones here as well, here across Illinois and stretching back over toward Ohio, and then up here across the high plains back into the Idaho, and here across the foothills once again with a marginal risk. Again, some strong gusty winds, 60 miles per hour for some individual storms there for your day two. How about day three going into Sunday for the rest of the weekend here? It looks like, again, just the high plains back over toward Minnesota and Wisconsin once again, dealing with some active weather there and getting into portions of Iowa. Dealing with that potential severe weather there. A lot of general thunderstorm threat out there, but again, nothing too organized. It's going to be too big of a deal. Now, let's go ahead and break down the categorical breakdown here for day one for today. And we'll go ahead and focus on today's here. There is a tornado risk. It is very, very low. We're talking up here in the Dakotas. So Grand Forks and coming back over toward Bismarck, showing a 2% chance for some tornadoes into that part of the country. Everybody else, and you got another little pocket here down in the south there. We're dealing with the flooding conditions down there, so don't worry about that. So let's look at your wind threat here for today. Again, looking up here toward the Dakotas again, that's with the highest there, and across the Northeast. We're going to talk about the Northeast. Could be some travel problems up here. Maybe try to catch a flight out of Newark and heading out of LaGuardia or JFK out of New York City. Looks like we'll have some late day thunderstorms going all the way up to the Boston area as well, up there as well. So again, from Boston down toward Philadelphia, the travel hot spots up there could be a bit of a problem there. But you see the 5% risk here. Again, the yellow is 15%, the brown is 5%. That'll stretch all the way back in here toward Kansas here. That frontal system's not going to be making it south because we're going to have that big dome here kind of filming across the southeast as we go into this upcoming weekend. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the rainfall. That's, again, been a bit of a problem. As obviously, look at the big red bullseye there. You got some very high flood risks here. So we're talking about St. Joseph, Topeka, back toward Manhattan, there in the Kansas City area. The rains don't look that bad on the radar, as I just showed you here for this morning, but not bad there currently. But you see in the yellow there, kind of stretching back here from areas of extreme northern Oklahoma, back over toward Illinois and over toward Indiana. So again, looking at some heavy rains in that pocket. The Gulf Coast, enhanced rain with that tropical threat down there as well. And a little bit of rain out there in California. That shouldn't be too bad, though. California, Oregon, and then, of course, the northern plains. And anywhere basically right around that frontal boundary that's going to be moving into the northeast. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at your day two here. We'll look at the weekend here, Saturday. You get just some pockets, just some marginal here along the Gulf Coast here from Alabama over toward Texas. Again, New York, Pennsylvania, stretching back over to Missouri again. Just little pockets here and there. Doesn't look too bad here for your Saturday. I mean, relatively compared to today. How about day three? Well, we're going to swing into the northeast here once again. Here, looking at marginal risk here for some heavy rains from West Virginia up to New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut. But the problem hotspot's going to be up here across Minnesota. A little disturbance riding it up here. That'll bring some heavier rains. Looks like north of Minneapolis, Duluth area, dealing with some moderate risk here for some or slight risk, I should say, slight risk for some heavy rains up into that area there. So that's not looking too bad here for the weekend. But the big story, again, is going to be the southeast, man. I tell you, that's going to be just some brutal heat. Again, as we kind of go back over here, I wanted to show you again, I'm expecting all this area to be filling in here with excessive heat warnings here coming in for this weekend, especially going into Monday and Tuesday next week. I'll give you an example. I know getting near the Atlanta area, they're talking about feel like temperatures getting close to 110. So it looks like the southeast is definitely going to be starting to bake here for a few days. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the tropics real quick. We'll talk about that. We're still dealing with that little tropical disturbance here off the Texas coast. This is a non-factor. It's just going to move on in and kind of fizzle on out. Shouldn't be too big of a deal there. Again, you can see this on the satellite imagery of what's left of this little disturbance here, kind of riding off the coast of Houston right now, and should not be a player or a factor there, as the rest of the tropics do remain quiet here for the time being. as we take a look at the big picture satellite imagery across the Atlantic right now. Got a little decent tropical wave here off the Yucatan. Doesn't look too bad. And you got another one here approaching the Lesser Antilles. But the rest of the Atlantic looks pretty quiet out there for right now. So don't have to worry about in the tropics to be a problem for you for this weekend. A lot of folks are, getting ready to go back to school here real soon. Maybe one of the last weekends for you guys to go on out. So really not looking too bad here across the southeast, other than the fact it's going to be plenty hot. That's for sure. All right, let's go ahead and look at your short-term model forecast here. We're going to go ahead and take a look here at the short-range models here first. We're going to be looking at the NAM model. It's going to take you in toward your Sunday early afternoon period here as we kind of see things. Again, we're dealing with that one system that's kind of going to be moving into the northeast here, where the rains will be up there. The big thing is you notice this building high here across the southeast. That's going to be kind of sitting up there in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That's going to be definitely keeping it hot and dry there. So not a lot of rain there. Just this rain track's going to finally just kind of move off this way here out of Kansas. So they got a couple of rounds of rain where they don't need it. But looks like as we go through Saturday and Sunday, you folks across Kansas and Missouri have been dealing with a lot of that heavy rain. You're going to get a chance to dry out a little bit. So that's some good news there. But really not looking too bad here through the weekend. The West is looking pretty good. It's still going to be staying very much on the dry side out here. That's for sure. So don't have to worry about that. But the heat is going to be the thing we're going to be tracking here through the weekend, especially going into the southeast here. And now you notice the tropical energy here moving here along the Gulf Coast. Let's talk about this. This kind of moves in across Texas and just kind of fizzles on out. Looks like the moisture just kind of moves up this way. So shouldn't be too big of an issue. I'll let this loop one more time here so you can kind of look at that one more time. Here again, this is our little wave out here. It's going to move in and right around Houston, going in towards your Saturday morning. And then whatever's left of that moisture will moving off. That's good news there for Texas. Obviously, you're always concerned about tropical moisture like we saw with Barry moving in and getting stuck. It looks like this will continue to move, and we should not be a big, huge flood maker here with that tropical system moving inland and getting caught up with that trough there in the middle of the country. So that's good news there. All right, let's go ahead and look at the temperatures here. I got this looping here for the weekend as well, as we're going to be dealing a lot of purple on the map. That's your hot temperatures, man. We're going to be dealing with that all weekend long here. And we'll go ahead and slow this down here a little bit. Let's back this up here. We're going to talk about your Friday afternoon. Let's go ahead and talk about this afternoon around 5 o'clock. So again, a lot of heat here in Texas, up here across the foothills coming out of Montana and into the Dakotas. You're seeing a lot of 90s up in here. Here's some hundreds right here, of course, the Dallas area. This area down here along the Carolinas are also going to really start to heat up here and through this upcoming week for sure, as that big heat wave starts to develop across the southeast. So let's go into your Saturday afternoon. Let's go check out the Saturday afternoon morning lows here. Not bad out in the west. You see a lot of green. That's pretty comfortable out here in the west. A little bit of a cool down. They got a little bit of a shift in that heat. It's kind of in the middle of the country. So the west will get a little bit of a reprieve here. The northeast eventually is going to see a nice little cool down coming toward the end of next week. But for the weekend, this is going to be dealing with the heat. So again, here is your 5 o'clock here on Saturday. Look at the temperatures up here in the Dakotas. Ouch, 104, 97. You got some hundreds back here down toward Texas. You got temperatures in the upper 90s here along the Carolina coast. Cooling down across the northeast. So it'll be hot kind of today, but then kind of backs off a little bit here going into your Saturday afternoon. We got some rains up here across portions of Iowa and Wisconsin, keeping the temperatures down here across the Great Lakes on your Saturday. Let's go into your Sunday morning here. Sunday morning, again, the west still looking comfortable. When you see the rain, that's comfortable. Still very muggy. Upper 70s, 78 degrees there for morning lows up there in upper part of Minnesota. That's just very, very, very warm. Check out these temperatures, the morning lows here across the Carolinas, though. 84, yucks. That just tells you the heat that's coming here across the Carolinas. 81, you're starting off your morning in the 80s. You know it's going to be a hot day ahead going into your Sunday. And by Sunday afternoon, we're already cracking, you're already cracking into the hundreds here. Look at it, you got 101 already cracking in there near Columbia, not too far from there. We also got the heat here in the middle of the country, 102 there into Kansas, and we got 100 degrees, 102 degrees up there into the Dakotas. So it's going to be pretty hot, pretty big coverage area here for the heat that'll be expanded. The only place we're getting a little bit of relief is the Great Lakes backing off there and the Northeast. You see the Northeast here, hell, there's some 60s up here for your Sunday afternoon. So the Northeast is going to cool down, the Great Lakes, but the middle of the country, Southeast, and the Southwest are going to bake going into this upcoming Sunday. So that's what we have to deal with there. Let's quickly look at those feel-like temperatures here real quick. I'm going to go ahead and switch models here and look at the, again, kind of look at what the feel-like temperature. Look at all the hundreds out here, just quite a bit. This is for your Friday afternoon, and we're going to step you through this for Saturday and Sunday as well. So here's looking at your Saturday here afternoon. Look at these temperatures out of here. 107 in the Carolinas, 106. I mean, just brutal. You got hundreds up here into the Dakotas, 106, 105 down here in Oklahoma, 104. Again, just a lot of widespread Century Plus. That's the combination of your temperature as well as your humidity. It's just going to be very brutally hot across the middle of the country and the southeast. The only period, the Great Lakes in the northeast will be not bad. The west also not looking too bad as well, relatively speaking. I mean, the interior sections of California, I mean, sitting in the 80s, that's not bad. We'll definitely take that. Not bad at all. And then we're going into your Sunday here. Let's go into that real quick. Let me pop the heat pop-ups. You know, they do happen from time to time. So here we go. So again, look at 110 right there in Nebraska. That is just absolutely crazy. That is absolutely nuts hot there across the middle of the country there. And even 109, 110 here along the Carolina coast. 100 degrees in Atlanta, 100 degrees there in Birmingham, 106 near St. Louis. So it is going to be very, very hot here across the middle of the country going into this upcoming weekend on Sunday. And it gets even hotter. It gets even hotter going to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, especially across the southeast. So that is definitely the big part of the story. It's going to be the heat. Now, I teased pattern change coming. What does that mean? What does that entail? What are we going to get on that? Let's go take a look at this. Here's the European model run here. Let me switch back over to this. There you go. And we're looking at the where the anomalies are with the heights. Again, remember the oranges and stuff. That's your high pressure. Your blues, that's your troughs and your troughiness there. You see the troughiness out here in the west. That's what's keeping the temperature down here for this upcoming weekend. So you notice we got that blue there into the west coast. So that's what's keeping the temperature down there for the weekend. That's why it's not so hot there. But you look at this big dome there. I mean, we got the high pressure. This is why it's going to get so hot here across the southeast. Got this high ridge here. You got this big old ridge here setting up across the middle of the country. That's why it's going to be hot in here and hot across the southeast. But we are going to beat this trough down. We're going to see that kind of give way here. A pretty significant trough across the northeast going in toward the 1st of August. So as we go and take this forward here, there's that big trough there coming on down into the northeast. Now what that's going to do is going to slide a frontal system probably down the eastern portion of the United States. So we're going to get some sort of relief coming this way. That'll be a backdoor cold front. But look at this big ridge going into Canada. So it's going to be hot up into the high plains here going in toward Friday. So the heat's going to shift from the east back to the central portion of the country. You notice we got a big low pressure system here off British Columbia as well. So again, the jet stream doing a very big high ridge right there going in toward the 1st. So as this goes on through, we'll get that moving on through. And then the high it begins to move on in. We got a little bit of a trough coming in off the west coast here, long range going in toward the first week of August here. And that's why this below normal that the Climate Prediction Center, I'm going to show you that in a second, is showing. I don't think it's going to last very long. I think the heat's just going to build right back in again across the eastern 2/3 of the country, except for maybe the northwest. Because the northwest kind of gives way here if the European model holds true. Because this is trending out. Look at by the time I go to the end of this run, the whole country is showing a lot of orange on that map. That means high pressure. That means temperatures will be coming back up again with no kind of big troughs or cool downs coming in out of Canada. All right, so let's go ahead and look at we're going to look at your next 7-day forecast here. Looking at the European once again, we're going to be tracking that frontal system here coming into the northeast. So this is on your Friday afternoon. You're looking at some pretty decent rains there across Ohio, coming back over toward Augusta. And again, this will get into the big travel cities as well. That's why we got that severe weather risk here going into late today as that moves on through. And then as it moves on through, we'll have another front to watch a little bit later in the week. So again, you see the rain there kind of moving back into the northeast. Southeast, y'all got that high pressure down there. You're not going to see much of rain at all here for the weekend. There's kind of the center of the high kind of sitting right in there. That's going to keep you guys pretty much high and dry. Just a lot of heat kind of building there. Then we got another little disturbance here kind of coming into Sunday, coming in through areas of the Dakotas and in Minnesota. That quickly moves across the Great Lakes. As you kind of see there, it looks like some pretty hefty thunderstorms there across the Minneapolis area, kind of going in toward the early Monday morning there, looking at going out to the 28th. So that will continue to move off toward the east, obviously. That continues to move on off. And then we're going to see this big trough come in here as I take the end of this forecast run. the heights start to fall there, and we start getting some rain back into the southeast. That should start beat back some of that extreme heat that we'll have on Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, you'll see the rain chances start to come up here across the southeast going into Thursday. We got our frontal system kind of driving down right through here. So here comes our cooler air kind of coming in across the Great Lakes and into the southeast eventually. Basically, what I think is going to end up happening, that front's going to stall across the south. So there's our high pressure system kind of moving in across areas of Pennsylvania and in New York. This is going to set up what we call a wedge here across the cold air damming, typically in the wintertime. This is also cool air, but this frontal system is going to stall across the southeast. That'll bring the rain chances back up and beat that heat wave back down here. Seeing some storms here across Iowa as well. That's going out toward the 2nd. So that's what we're looking at right now. That's going to kind of settle in across the southeast, and that'll bring definitely much cooler weather across the northeast going into the 2nd and 3rd of August. All right, so let's talk about precipitation here for the next 7 days, your week total here. Again, the Gulf Coast, this starts to come up toward the end when that frontal system starts to move in here and starts to saw some bit of moisture call on the Gulf Coast here. Will be kind of up, and then you see the storm track staying with a lot of the heavy rains stretching from Iowa, going through Illinois, Ohio, and into the northeast. I mean, northeast, the next 7 days total is looking pretty good. I mean, we're talking 4 inch plus, 4 inches, 3 inches. Again, we got a couple of series of thunderstorms that'll be blowing through there, and some pretty good high water content with this as well. So could see some potential flooding here going into the northeast. We got to watch that closely here. Again, that's going in toward the end of this run. So this is going in with that frontal system that's going to bring the cold air into New York and into areas of the northeast. That's going to be with that frontal system. So some very strong storms up that way going toward the end of this run, going toward next Friday, when that frontal system, that cool down comes into the northeast. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up and go look at your climate outlook here. We want to talk about this here in greater detail. This is what's showing right now as far as the update. Well, this is to see if this changes much here. I think it might, especially the long range here, at least based off what I'm seeing on the long range European model, which is my preferred model of choice. But again, this is going out from the 30th through the 3rd. So this looks reasonable for me as far as that cool down, what we're seeing right here across the Great Lakes. We got that cool air that's going to be kind of be moving on down there. It's going to be plenty hot here across the southeast going in toward the 30th, but I think it starts chipping away by the 1st and 2nd just because the rain chances are going to come back up there. All right, so as we go into the 8th to the 14th, it's really bringing this down into the southeast. This is where I think I might see this change a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be that big of an area that's going to be seeing below normal temperatures. That seems a little bit too big. I think the northeast, yes, but I'm not sure it's going to stay that big, that far out, at least based off what I'm seeing with the overall models here going out from the 1st through the 7th, because I think it's going to start quick. By the time we get to about the 4th or 5th, I think it's going to start warming up pretty quickly back in those areas. What about your precipitation outlook here? Let's look at that. Again, because of the cool northeast wind that's going to be kind of blowing in there across the Great Lakes and into New England, that's going to be the reason why you get the below normal precipitation there. But everybody else really from coast to coast looking at pretty decent rain chances, even some heavier rains out here toward better higher rate chances of rain here across Idaho, Montana, and into Oregon and into Washington State. Again, this is the 30th through the 3rd. And then we'll go out to the 8th to the 14th. Again, a lot of the country still looking at above normal precipitation, except for the Great Lakes in here, once again, because of that cool northwest flow air coming out of Canada. And of course, a little above here across Texas and into Louisiana, and still looking above normal with the precipitation there across the Pacific Northwest. So, I do have a little bit of difference of opinion on how long that cool air is going to stay there. I think that's going to change a little bit here as we go in toward this afternoon. We'll see what the 12Z runs have to show for us here a little bit later today to see if that trend stays or not. I think it's going to be back, because it looks like I think a lot of the country will begin to warm up. The good news is the heat wave that's going to be settling into the southeast for you folks watching across the southeast, it will be fairly short-lived. I think it'll be probably about 5 to 6 days of that, and then it should kind of beat back and should see things begin to improve. All right, that's y'all's weather report update here for today. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out here for today. And if you're coming into this live after the update, if you have any weather-related questions, please post those down below for me, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions there. And as always, give me a thumbs up if you can. Helps out with the YouTube algorithm here as we're going to try to make this a regular daily feature for you guys here. Each morning, 8:30, you can come back and check in at your leisure whenever you want to. You can join us live or not. I'm still working on a chat program. I think I found one here, so we can integrate some of the chat functions in here. So like Diana, I see you over there watching, and Drew, you're watching as well. So I can pull up y'all's comments and stuff. I think I found a replacement program for my Chat Ninja, which no longer supported by Google Chrome, which really kind of irritated me, but because I love that program. But I think I found a replacement for it. We'll get that going here real soon. All right, that is y'all's update for today. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a great, safe weekend. We'll talk to you.